What if the true end of the world had been predicted for a long time, and only a select group of people knew the truth? Imagine discovering that NASA, along with governments and high-ranking scientists, already have concrete information about how and when everything will end, but have decided to keep it secret. What would make more sense? Revealing an inevitable catastrophe and risking global collapse, or controlling that information and ensuring that only the prepared have a chance to survive? Behind the scenes in science, there are signs that something big may be coming. Several documents leaked over the years raise suspicions about a possible catastrophic event that was being monitored in secret. Cryptic statements from former NASA employees, warnings from independent astronomers, and even reports from military researchers point to an unsettling scenario. Is humanity being slowly prepared to accept its destiny without even realizing it? Highly confidential projects, which involve everything from advanced space technology to research into underground life, indicate that some people already know what awaits us, and everything leads us to believe that this truth is being carefully manipulated. Think about how, in recent years, we've seen a significant increase in news about asteroid impacts, extreme climate change, planetary defense tests, and even the accelerated exploration of Mars. All of this could be just normal scientific advances, or it could be part of a much larger plan. A plan that aims to ensure that those who possess the knowledge have time to prepare, while the population worries about their daily lives. With technological distractions and artificial crises, something is being planned far from the public eye. What exactly is being hidden? And more importantly, why don't they want us to know? There are records of space missions whose objectives were never clearly explained to the public. Satellites that disappear without explanation, telescopes aimed at specific points in space without anyone knowing what they are observing, and billion-dollar investments in technologies that apparently have no immediate application. Could it be possible that they were monitoring an imminent threat? What if this event already has a scheduled date, but the information is only released to a select group? And it's not just leaked documents that raise suspicions. Renowned scientists, in some of their last interviews before disappearing from the media, have already made statements that seem more like warnings than simple scientific analyses. A former NASA researcher even stated that what is coming cannot be avoided, only managed. But what exactly does this mean? What has NASA already discovered that cannot be disclosed to the public? Throughout this video, we'll look at each of these loose pieces, connect the dots, and reveal what might be missing. From frightening scientific predictions to secret projects that raise disturbing questions about the future of humanity. If the truth is truly being hidden, what can we do to find out before it's too late? The pieces begin to fall into place when we analyze recent moves by governments and powerful corporations. While the media distracts us with irrelevant matters, scientists work tirelessly on missions that seem to be one step ahead of what should really be a priority. Telescopes pointed at specific regions of space, construction of bunkers in strategic locations, mass evacuation, simulations and secret experiments that never become public knowledge. And the strangest of all, whenever someone tries to bring these issues to light, the response is the same: silence. But now I want to hear from you. What do you think is behind this secrecy? Do you believe that NASA and other space agencies already know when and how the world will end? Or do you think we are just dealing with unfounded theories? Comment below on the phrase, "The truth has already been written," to make it clear that we are paying attention and demand answers. Your comment makes all the difference in helping this discussion reach more people. If there's anything that can change the course of humanity in an instant, it's the cosmic threats coming from space. While most people go about their daily lives without worrying about what's above their heads, scientists and astronomers constantly monitor events that could put an end to civilization as we know it. But the question is, what is really being watched? What threats could be closer than we think? And most importantly, would NASA and other space agencies release this information to the public? Or is there an active effort to hide the true danger that surrounds us? One of the most well-known and feared threats are giant asteroids. We know that in the past, devastating impacts have completely reshaped life on Earth. The most famous of all, which wiped out the dinosaurs 66 million years ago, was caused by an object approximately 10 kilometers in diameter that collided with the region where the Yucatan Peninsula is today, in Mexico. The explosion was so powerful that it caused global fires, gigantic tsunamis, and released enough dust to block sunlight for years, plunging the planet into an extreme winter that wiped out much of life on Earth. What if something similar was about to happen again? NASA claims to monitor thousands of near-Earth objects, NEOs, asteroids that pass close to our planet. But there are flaws in this monitoring. An example of this is the asteroid 2019, OK, which passed just 70,000 kilometers from Earth, a distance shorter than that between our planet and the Moon, without anyone detecting it until it was too late. This means that if it were on a collision course, there would be no time for evacuations or any attempt at defense. If this type of failure happens frequently, how many other celestial bodies could be on the way right now without us knowing? Another threat that could be even more dangerous than an asteroid impact is solar flares. The Sun, despite being the source of life on Earth, also represents a great risk to our civilization. From time to time, it releases solar storms that travel through space at high speeds. When these particles reach our planet, they can cause intense disturbances in the Earth's magnetic field, affecting satellites, electrical networks, and communication systems. The Carrington event, recorded in 1859, was one of these super-solar storms. At the time, telegraph networks collapsed, and electrical currents were generated so intense that operators were shocked and fires were reported at communication stations. Now imagine an event of this magnitude today, where we completely depend on technology for everything. If an extreme solar storm were to hit Earth now, the damage would be immeasurable. Communication satellites would go down, the internet would go offline, banking systems would collapse, and power grids could be down for months or even years. This would mean the complete destruction of modern infrastructure. Chaos would take over the world, as without electricity, water and food supply networks would stop functioning, cities would collapse, and society would plunge into a new era of darkness. What if NASA already knows that a supersolar storm could hit the planet in the next few years, but chose not to release this information to avoid panic? Another even more disturbing possibility is that there are space objects or even a hidden planet that could cross our solar system and cause mass destruction. The planet scientists vehemently deny this hypothesis, but some independent astronomers claim that anomalies in the orbits of some planets suggest the presence of a massive body that we have not yet been able to fully identify. If this theory is real, it could explain why so many space agencies are investing heavily in space monitoring and planetary defense programs. The DART project, which recently tested the possibility of deflecting an asteroid by crashing a probe into it, may have been just an initial test for something much larger that is already being planned. What would happen if a cosmic event of this magnitude was actually predicted for the next few years? Now, let's think about an important detail. The information that reaches us is carefully filtered. Reports from independent astronomers indicate that some discoveries simply disappear from scientific databases. Telescopes that capture images of mysterious objects in space end up being deactivated without explanation. Researchers who mention possibilities of unexpected cosmic threats often suffer reprisals, have their research discredited, or simply disappear from the media. Who is controlling this information? Who decides what should or should not be released to the public? And if you want this information to continue to be spread and for more people to become aware of these possibilities, press like right now and subscribe to the channel. The algorithm doesn't want content like this to reach as many people as possible, but your likes can make a difference and help this debate grow. If there's one thing that governments and space agencies are keen to keep away from public knowledge, it's documents that detail apocalyptic events and secret evacuation protocols. But what exactly is being discussed behind closed doors? What was discovered and needs to be hidden from the population? Over the years, several files have been leaked, revealing that there is indeed a level of preparation for catastrophic events, but that this preparation is not for everyone. There are detailed plans on how to protect only a small portion of society, while the rest of humanity would be left to fend for itself. One of the first signs that something big may be being kept secret came with the leak of emails between NASA scientists and senior US government officials. These documents mentioned unavoidable events and selective evacuation protocols, without going into detail about what the exact threat would be. But the most intriguing question is not just the content of these messages, but what happened after they were discovered. As soon as they began circulating on the internet, they were quickly removed, and any attempt at republication was classified as misinformation. This raises a much bigger question. Why so much effort to erase something that supposedly does not represent a real threat? These documents also spoke of a plan called the Continuity of Civilization Project, a highly classified scheme that involves relocating people essential to humanity's survival to protected locations in the event of a global catastrophe. But what few people know is that this project is not a simple contingency plan. It does not envisage the evacuation of the mass population, but rather the preservation of a highly selective group of individuals: scientists, military personnel, politicians, and members of the financial elite. In other words, if a catastrophic event were on the way, only these people would have the time and resources to escape. Most disturbingly, there is evidence that these plans are not theoretical. Some reports indicate that secret underground facilities are already ready to shelter these people in case of emergency. The existence of highly sophisticated underground bunkers, capable of withstanding asteroid impacts, solar flares, and even drastic changes in the climate, has already been confirmed in several countries. Which raises an inevitable question. If there is no imminent threat, why spend billions of dollars building these refugees? But the suspicions don't stop there. Leaked reports also mention discussions between governments about the possibility of cosmic events that could directly impact life on Earth. Among these events are not only gigantic asteroids that could collide with the planet, but also massive solar flares and even the possibility of unknown celestial bodies entering our solar system. If these risks are already known and are being monitored, why is the population not informed? What is striking is that whenever independent astronomers discover something that seems to upset the official versions, their research is discredited, removed from scientific databases, or simply disappears. Telescopes that capture images of unknown objects in space are mysteriously deactivated, and any study that suggests the possibility of an imminent threat is quickly dismissed as a conspiracy theory. If there is nothing to hide, why this constant effort to silence those who ask questions? Another worrying detail was the leak of a FEMA, U.S. Federal Emergency Management Agency, document that described large-scale evacuation scenarios for extinction-level events. The strangest thing, the document was not related to hurricanes, earthquakes, or other common natural disasters. He talked about the possibility of space impacts and vague mentions of cosmic anomalies that could require extreme information containment measures. This means that if an event of this type was confirmed, the last thing they would do would be to alert the population. We cannot ignore that whenever information like this starts to leak, the response is quick and efficient. Reports disappear, articles are deleted, scientists who risk speaking out are discredited, and everything returns to normal, as if nothing had happened. But if there is this effort to ensure that certain information never reaches the public, we can imagine the size of the threat that could be kept secret. Now, I want to know your opinion. Do you believe that NASA and governments already know about a real threat and simply decided to hide this information? Or do you think this is all speculation? If you have questions about what is happening behind the scenes, comment below "They know everything" to show that we are attentive and do not accept superficial explanations. In recent years, we have seen accelerated growth in interest in space exploration. Private companies such as SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Virgin Galactic are investing billions of dollars to enable interplanetary travel. Officially, all of this is presented as an advance for humanity, a step towards expansion beyond our planet. But does this race have a much more urgent reason? Are these projects being driven by information that the public does not have access to? The biggest indication of this is the growing obsession with Mars. For decades, exploration of the Red Planet was limited to robotic missions, but now we're seeing an unprecedented effort to turn Mars into a second home. Elon Musk, for example, has already publicly declared that he intends to colonize the planet as quickly as possible, establishing a self-sustainable city capable of housing thousands of people. But think about it. Why this rush? Why has Mars become such a big priority? Musk himself has stated that humanity needs to become a multi-planetary species to ensure its survival. But survival against what? What does he know that we don't? Could it be that the elites have already received inside information about an inevitable event on Earth and are looking for a way out before the worst happens? Another curious detail is that plans to colonize Mars are not limited to Elon Musk. NASA and other space agencies have already revealed projects to create habitats on the Red Planet, including greenhouses, water purification systems, and even underground ice mining. But why this rush? Why invest so many resources to create a complete infrastructure on a planet that, according to the official version, will not be habitable for centuries? And Mars is not the only alternative. The Moon is also at the center of the plans of the great space powers. The Artemis mission, for example, aims to establish a permanent base on the lunar surface. The stated goal is to facilitate future interplanetary missions. But what if this base has a more urgent purpose? If a global event were about to happen, could a lunar facility be used as a temporary refuge for the elite, ensuring that a select few have somewhere to shelter while Earth undergoes collapse? If we look at military and space investments, the pattern becomes even more evident. The United States, China, and Russia are all racing to develop technologies capable of ensuring human presence off the planet. And here comes an even more intriguing question. Why now? For decades, the focus of space missions has been scientific exploration, but now the priority has shifted to colonization, habitation, and mining of space resources. The official explanation is that we are advancing technologically and that it is natural to seek to expand our presence in space. But does this really justify such urgency? What is most striking is that the majority of the population has no idea of the magnitude of these projects. While people worry about everyday life, economic crises, conflicts, and artificial distractions, there is a massive effort to create alternatives outside of Earth. And of course, these alternatives will not be accessible to everyone. Do you really believe that if there were an imminent threat, the world's population would be taken to Mars or a base on the Moon? Or would only a select group have this privilege? The scary thing is that there are clear signs that this plan is already underway. Big billionaires are investing not only in space exploration, but also in advanced survival technologies, from highly equipped underground bunkers to food-growing systems in extreme environments. There is every indication that there is an effort to ensure that those with the right resources can continue their lives elsewhere, while the rest of the population is left behind. But is there a deadline for this? How long do we have until these plans become reality? Is humanity already living its last years on Earth without even realizing it? And if you want this discussion to reach more people, press like now and subscribe to the channel. The algorithm may even try to hide this type of content, but your likes ensure that more people are aware of what may be happening behind the scenes. Science has already identified several scenarios that could lead to the collapse of civilization as we know it. One of them is the possibility of a new ice age. The planet has experienced several periods of extreme cooling in the past, and there are signs that this could happen again. Scientists believe small changes in Earth's orbit, known as Milankovitch cycles, could trigger abrupt climate changes, plunging the planet into sub-zero temperatures for hundreds or even thousands of years. But what few know is that there is evidence that the process may have already begun. Slowing ocean currents and temperature anomalies in the North Atlantic suggest that significant cooling may be on the way. And if this is true, the impact would be devastating. Imagine a world where temperatures drop to the point of making entire regions uninhabitable, frozen cities, destroyed crops, billions of people without access to food. Society would quickly collapse, leading to wars over resources and the end of the social structure as we know it. But did NASA and other space agencies already know this and just decided not to publicize the seriousness of the situation? Another factor that could trigger the collapse of humanity is extreme weather events, increasingly powerful. Hurricanes, deadly heat waves, prolonged droughts, and massive floods. If we add all this to the increase in volcanic activity and the risks of supervolcanoes, we have a scenario in which the Earth could become uninhabitable in a short time. The Yellowstone volcano, for example, is one of the biggest risks to the planet. If it erupted, it would throw tons of ash into the atmosphere, blocking sunlight and starting a volcanic winter that could last for years. And the question that few ask is, has NASA already detected signs that this could happen soon? But perhaps the most alarming event of all is the reversal of the magnetic poles. The Earth has undergone numerous magnetic reversals throughout its history, where the North Pole and the South Pole swap places. Science believes that we are heading towards another of these reversals, but what they don't say is that this process can have devastating consequences. The Earth's magnetic field is what protects us from space radiation and solar storms. If it weakens during the inversion, our atmosphere could be bombarded by extremely high levels of radiation, affecting all of the planet's electrical systems, burning up satellites and completely eliminating our technology. Now imagine living in a world where all electrical grids fail at the same time. No communication, no supply system, no form of modern transportation. Humanity would instantly regress to a primitive state, with economic collapses, food shortages, and violent disputes for survival. Worst of all, there are records that indicate this has happened before and could happen again. But what is most intriguing is that some of these texts appear to contain information that coincides with what modern science is discovering. The Sumerians talked about a cosmic cycle that brought destruction to the planet every certain period of time. The Mayans predicted great changes that would come from forces from space. What if these civilizations already knew something that we are only now beginning to understand? What if NASA has already found evidence that these cycles are real and that we are about to enter another period of destruction? If we analyze the behavior of the great powers, we realize that there is a strange movement happening. As we've discussed before, billionaires and governments are investing heavily in space colonization, building underground shelters, and developing survival technologies. If there is no real threat, why such a huge effort? Why the rush? Do these people already know that collapse is inevitable and are just ensuring their survival while the rest of humanity is left without access to this information? Now, I want to know your opinion. Do you believe that NASA already has evidence that we are close to a global destruction event? Do you think ancient civilizations already knew about these cycles and tried to warn us? If you believe there is something much bigger being hidden, comment below. The cycle is repeating itself to show that we are paying attention. Now think, if this would be the inevitable scenario, why do you think governments and space agencies would disclose information like that? If a catastrophic event were inevitable and already had a date set, would the whole world be informed or only those who really matter to the system? The answer is obvious. The population would not be warned. Secrecy would be the only way to ensure that civilization continued to function until the last possible moment, while a select group of people would have time to prepare. What if this is already happening? Look around you. Wars, food crises, pandemics, financial collapses, environmental collapses. All of this happening at the same time, increasingly intensified, as if we are being slowly led to a point of no return. Is all this just a consequence of a disorganized world, or is it part of a bigger plan? A plan to reduce the global population before final collapse? The idea of population control is not new. Leaked documents show that this possibility has been discussed by authorities in the past. One of the best-known cases is the Kissinger Memorandum from 1974, where Henry Kissinger, one of the most influential names in global politics, suggested that developing countries should have their population growth reduced in a controlled manner to avoid scarcity of resources in the future. Now think, what if this mentality never went away? What if, instead of waiting for chaos to occur naturally, elites are already creating the conditions to reduce the population before the world collapses on its own? The signs that something big could be happening behind the scenes are numerous. In recent years, we've seen billionaires and global leaders invest in underground bunkers, extreme survival technology, and even space colonization. If there is no real threat, why are these people spending billions of dollars preparing for something that, theoretically, will never happen? After everything we've analyzed, the most disturbing question remains unanswered. Does NASA already know about the true end of the world, and is it hiding this information? For decades, scientists and global leaders have held secret meetings, developed advanced space colonization technologies, and invested billions in projects that did not appear to have immediate application. But what if all this isn't just scientific research? What if, in fact, it is a carefully planned strategy to ensure that only a select few have time to prepare while the rest of humanity remains ignorant? Evidence suggests that secrecy about apocalyptic events may be a reality. Leaked documents mention selective evacuation protocols, i.e., a plan to save only those considered essential for rebuilding civilization. But who decides who should be saved? Who has access to this information? And more importantly, why isn't this discussed publicly? If NASA had truly identified a catastrophic event that threatens humanity, what do you think would happen if it were revealed. Panic would take over the world. Banks and markets would collapse. The military would lose control of the streets, and billions of people would desperately try to find a way to survive. The world order would collapse instantly. Now think, knowing this, would governments really disclose this information? Or would they keep everything secret as long as possible to ensure that the system continues to function until the last moment? What if we are already seeing the signs that something is about to happen? Successive crises, increasingly frequent natural disasters, pandemics, conflicts, and the unbridled growth of social control. Did these situations arise naturally, or are they part of a global plan to weaken and reduce the population before true collapse occurs? It wouldn't be the first time something like this happened. The elites are already preparing for what comes next. Billionaires invest in properties in strategic locations, finance space exploration, and build highly advanced underground bunkers. If there is no real threat, why are they spending fortunes to ensure security and isolation? What do they know that we don't know? And to ensure that more people have access to this information, press like now and subscribe to the channel. The algorithm may even try to hide content like this, but your like makes all the difference so that the debate continues to grow. And if you want to continue exploring conspiracies and mysteries about NASA, don't stop here. There's a video waiting for you on your screen now. Click and discover what else could be hidden from us.